We do not accept lessons from anyone from the point of view of respect for human rights. If you stop at the bureaucratic expressions, go ahead. But we don't accept lessons from anyone.
Vomitable. And those, like France, continue to exploit Africa, printing money for 14 African nations on which it applies seigniorage, making children work in the mines, extracting raw materials as happens in Niger, where France extracts 30% of the uranium it needs to run nuclear power plants, and 90% of Nigerians live without electricity. Don't come and give lessons, MACRON, because Africa is running away from you, and the solution is not to move Africans to Europe. It is to free Africa from certain Europeans. We do not accept lessons.
What gives Africa the right to bully France like this? This is not fair. This is not right. This is not just. And now we're seeing in real time France's economic collapse due to Africa's stern stance on retaining their resources for themselves. So ladies and gentlemen, my staff has put together some clips for you to show you exactly what is behind all of this aggression towards France that Africa has taken. And don't forget to please like and subscribe.
Questo si chiama franco CFA. È la moneta coloniale che la Francia stampa per 14 nazioni africane alle quali applica il signoraggio e in forza delle quali sfrutta le risorse di questa nazione. Questo è un bambino che lavora in una miniera d'oro in Burkina Faso. Il Burkina Faso è una delle nazioni più povere del mondo. Per il Burkina Faso, che ha l'oro, la Francia stampa moneta coloniale. In cambio pretende che finiscano nelle casse del tesoro francese il 50% di tutto quello che il Burkina Faso esporta. L'oro che questo bambino si infila in un cunicolo per tirare fuori finisce per lo più nelle casse dello Stato francese. Allora la soluzione non è prendere gli africani e spostarli in Europa, la soluzione è liberare l'Africa da certi europei che la sfruttano e consentire a queste persone di vivere di quello che hanno.
So that guy you saw that looked like me at the beginning of the video was the old me. This is the new me. And as we know, most of the world heard Giorgio Meloni in that speech. So that was a couple years ago when she said that. Burkina Faso has now went through a coup with the new leader, Ibrahim Traoré, taking a whole new lead with that country and with their resources, taking them in control and giving them back to the people of Africa and the people of Burkina Faso. And now they are pretty much doing their own thing. So with that said, today, December 13th, 2024, Macron, I have a hard time saying that name even coming out of my mouth. Is like a curse word almost. It's a horrible name. It just doesn't roll off my tongue like it's supposed to. Macron names François Bayrou as French Prime Minister after government collapse. The new Prime Minister, a Macron ally. Remember that? The new Prime Minister is still a Macron ally, right? Must try to assemble a government, regain control of France's deficit, and satisfy warring political factions. Ladies and gentlemen, what we are seeing here is not failure to communicate. It's failure for Macron to run his government without destroying Africa. We'll go over more of this in just a second. First, check this out.
Vomitevole è chi, come la Francia, continua a sfruttare l'Africa stampando moneta per 14 nazioni africane sulle quali applica il signoraggio, facendo lavorare bambini nelle miniere, estraendo materie prime come accade in Niger, dove la Francia estrae il 30% dell'uranio che gli serve a far camminare le centrali nucleari e il 90% dei nigerini vive senza elettricità. Non ci venire a fare lezioni, Macron, perché l'Africa scappa da voi e la soluzione non è spostare gli africani in Europa, è liberare l'Africa da certi europei. Non accettiamo lezioni, chiaro?
We will not accept lessons from you anymore. Is that clear? It is clear. And you know what? That is Giorgio Meloni of Italy saying that to Macron. But you know who else said that to Macron that really hurt? was Africa. Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali. Now that Africa has stood up to the West with a firm hand and a firm grip and has taken their country back, oh, France, do you want to negotiate a fair price? We'll think about it. They have put themselves in the driver's seat. Supply and demand. Africa's got the supply. And in France, electricity is the demand. Here comes Africa.
There are dozens of African countries where France is printing a currency of its own, the France of the colonies, and with that currency, French debt is financed. If France didn't have African colonies, which it's impoverishing, it would be the 15th world economic power, and instead it's amongst the leading ones because of what it's doing in Africa.
So before anybody gets ahead of themselves here, we have to wonder what Africa is thinking right now as far as how they're going to sell off the resources and when they're going to sell off their resources, or if they're going to sell the resources once again to France, or is France going to have to go ahead and suffer the circumstances that Africa has put on? It's sort of like a sanction from a more poverty-known country, which is now becoming a more favorable country in the world. And how is Africa going to play this out? Well, one of the major factors that you would have to consider is the supply is how much and the demand is how much. You want to get that demand up as high as you possibly can. Is France right now in a position of demand where they've never seen before? Let's go ahead and go over that Washington Post article that says they're basically on DEFCON 4. The article reads as such. French President Emmanuel Macron named Francois Bayrou, centrist, as prime minister on Friday in a bid to restore stability after a non-confidence vote. Non-confidence vote toppled the shortest-serving government in modern French Republic. That's horrible news for Macron and for France in general. The new prime minister must now try to cobble together a government and get a handle on France's spiraling deficit and debt burden in a way that satisfies enough of the warring political factions to keep everything from crashing down again. European allies are looking for France and neighboring Germany also in a political and financial turmoil, because Germany is affected as well by the fuel from Russia, for one being the pipeline, and the war in Ukraine, as well as the African kicking out France and not being able to reap their harvest on the resources of Africa. To get their affairs in order at a time when a President-elect Donald Trump is threatening to launch a trade war and pivot the U.S. position on Russia's war in Ukraine. So there's Donald Trump as well jumping in and putting more pressure on France and in Ukraine to stop the war. And we all know that President Trump is no big fan of France. So France is in a bind now between a lot of the countries in Africa and America. So this is a really crucial time for France to start making a deal. The price can go up. The price is right now probably a good time to sell. I'm just saying, but with faith and patience, you inherit the promise. So patience is a good thing. No one knows the difficulty of the situation better than I do, Bayrou said during a red carpet ceremony for the transition of power at the Prime Minister's official residence. He acknowledged the extent of the challenges that lie ahead, called for reconciliation of acrimonious divisions, and described curbing debts as not only financial priority, but a moral issue. Facing backlash over the political turmoil, Macron has called on the country's fractious parties to make compromises in the national interest. France has alternated through periods of political chaos and paralysis since June, when Macron announced early legislative elections. But the election resulted in a bitterly divided legislature, and the government that took office in September was threatened with a collapse at any moment, its fate ultimately resting in the hands of the far-right leader, Marine Le Pen. So here's Macron again, a far-left Democrat socialist that just wants to, enslave. But now he's facing backlash as the country is going more into a right-wing conservative family value tradition, and now he's stumped. Now he's dug himself in a hole that he just can't get out of, with both Africa now and America coming in and saying, we're not really willing to deal with you guys much anymore. So I think we're going to have to see a level playing field take place very soon, or France can say goodbye to all of their hype and glory that they've vested in for the last 300 years, which it's a new day. It's a new day for the world. It's a great day for Africa. And it's also opening a new playbook for Africa and how they're about to deal with the West in the coming future. And we will be able to see this in real time as we're all keeping a close eye on that country. And I want to say thank you all for watching. One love. God bless you. May his favor shine upon you forever. In Jesus' name. We'll see you later. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.